The talking drums echoed across the vast kingdom of Asanteman, their deep vibrations rolling through the air like the voice of the gods themselves. The great market square was alive with movement. Women in flowing Adair fabrics balanced baskets of yams and plantains on their heads, traders called out their best prices, and drummers played the rhythm of life itself. But on this particular day, the kingdom was not gathered for trade or celebration. No, they had all come for one thing, to witness the downfall of Kweku Ananse, the trickster. For years, Ananse had fooled everyone, chiefs, traders, even the wisest elders. He had tricked his way into free food, convinced farmers to do his work, and once even swapped the king's golden stool with a termite-infested log without anyone noticing. But no trick was greater than the one he had played on Nana Osepoku, the mighty king of Asanteman. The king was furious. "That foolish spider has embarrassed me for the last time," the king bellowed from his golden throne. "I will set him a task so impossible, so ridiculous, that even his cunning will not save him." And so the challenge was made. The king summoned Ananse to his palace. When the trickster arrived, he did not seem the least bit worried. He strutted into the royal courtyard, bowing deeply, but with a mischievous smirk on his face. "Your Majesty," Ananse said smoothly, spreading his arms wide. "What a glorious morning. The birds sing your name, the rivers flow in your honor. What service can your humble servant provide today?" The king narrowed his eyes. "Kweku Ananse, you have fooled this kingdom for too long," the king declared. "You claim to be the wisest in all the land, but let us see how wise you truly are. I have a task for you. If you fail, you shall be banished forever." The crowd gasped. Ananse, however, simply raised an eyebrow. "Your Majesty, I am but a small, insignificant spider. Surely you wouldn't send away such a humble creature?" "Silence!" the king roared. "Your task is this. Bring me a basket woven from water." A murmur of shock spread through the court. Everyone knew that water could not be woven. Even the oldest griots, the wisest elders, and the most skilled craftsmen had never heard of such a thing. Surely this was the end of Kweku Ananse. But Ananse only smiled, bowed, and said, "Ah, my king, such a simple task. 3 days is more than enough." The king's lips curled into a smirk. "Very well. If you fail, you will be exiled. But if you succeed, you may have any reward you desire." And with that, the challenge began. The trick begins. As Ananse left the palace, the people whispered and laughed behind him. How can he weave water? This time he is truly lost. But Ananse did not panic. Instead, he walked slowly to his favorite thinking place beneath the great rocco tree. He tapped his chin. A basket made of water? Impossible for a fool, but not for Kweku Ananse. He decided to visit Nana Abena, the old wise woman of the village. If anyone knew a secret about water, it was her. Ananse pretended to be sick as he knocked on her door. "Mama Abena, I am dying. My body burns like fire. What should I do?" The old woman, seeing Ananse's usual tricks, sighed and said, "Foolish spider, go and bathe in the river. Water cools all things." Ananse grinned. "Aha, water cools all things, you say? With that, he ran off, leaving Nana Abena shaking her head. Day 2, the bigger scheme. Ananse now needed more information. He visited his greedy friend, the tortoise, who was always fooled by his own hunger for riches. "Ah, Brother Tortoise," Ananse called. "I heard the king will soon reward whoever can bring him the coldest thing in the world." Tortoise's eyes widened. Truly, and what is the coldest thing? Ananse pretended to think. Well, it must be water. After all, even Nana Abena says water cools all things. Tortoise, always greedy, ran straight to the king and declared, "My king, I have heard that the coldest thing in the world is water. Surely, if Ananse must weave a basket of something, it must be of the coldest thing." The king, confused but amused, nodded. That is true. Ananse smiled in the shadows. His plan was working. Day 3, the final trick. On the final day, Ananse went to the river at dawn. He carried a beautifully woven basket, but instead of weaving with straw, he had woven the basket out of ice. He let it sit in the coldest part of the river until it became solid. Then he carefully carried the basket of water to the king's palace, covering it with large leaves to keep it cold. When Ananse arrived, the king smirked. "So, Ananse, have you failed?" Ananse smiled confidently and said, "Your Majesty, here is your basket made of water." He removed the leaves and the entire court gasped. There, in his hands, was a solid basket made of frozen water. The king burst into laughter. Even he had to admit Ananse had won. "You trickster, you have bested me again," the king declared. "Name your reward." Ananse, always thinking ahead, bowed and said, "O great king, I only wish for one thing, that no one in this land shall ever punish another for being too clever." The king, though outwitted, saw the wisdom in Ananse's request and agreed. From that day, Kweku Ananse's name became legend, and his tricks became the stories that would be told for generations to come.